an owner was asking me about the ignition coil circuit, how the wires for the ignition coil circuit actually run. So this is just a real short video to show him how the circuit is wired up. The circuit starts in the relay compartment. This is the white junction coming off of the main relay, runs from the main relay to the white junction, and then at the white junction it splits and runs to various circuits, and one of the circuits is the coil circuit. Now on my car, I've run the coil circuit through the fuse block before going up to the bulkhead connectors. As built, there is no circuit protection on the coil circuit. It just runs from the white junction directly up to the bulkhead connectors. So I ran mine through the fuse block. I don't use fuse number 7, so I just repurposed fuse number 7 to be my coil circuit fuse. And then I run back from the fuse block up to the bulkhead connectors. On his car, it'll probably run just directly from white junction up the wiring harness to the bulkhead connectors. This is the white wire coming out of the other side of the bulkhead connector. And then on my car, it runs through this wiring harness that's attached to the firewall to the resistor grid. This is the other side of that white wire. Now on my car, I have this old fuse link that I used before I ran the circuit through the fuse block. I've just left it in place. It's not hurting anything. And remember that I'm running HEI, so I don't use the resistor grid. I'm just using this common metal tab as a junction point to join these two wires together. On a stock DeLorean, the resistor grid would be wired up like that. White would go into one of the two resistors. It doesn't matter which one. And then white with yellow would run from the other resistor back to the coil. And in fact, I think that white with yellow wire is what confuses people, because there is no white with yellow in the bulkhead connectors. And so I think some owners scratch their head trying to figure out where white with yellow comes from. All it is just a jumper. It's like 18 to 24 inches long. And it just runs from the resistor grid to the coil. That's it. That's white with yellow. And there is white with yellow attached to the positive side of my coil. In fact, let me say something real quick about the terminals on the coil. I sometimes see owners talk about the left and the right side of the coil, or the terminal closest to the bulkhead connectors and the terminal farthest from the bulkhead connectors. I do not recommend thinking in those terms, because the coil will work no matter how it is oriented. In fact, you can turn it sideways or even upside down. The coil can be pointed any which way, and it'll work just fine. So if you're talking about the left and the right side of the coil, it's possible that you'll encounter a coil that's turned around the other way, and now your coil will be wired up backwards. When you're talking about the coil, always use the identification of the terminal itself. This is the positive side of the coil, and you'll see that there's a plus sign on that terminal. This is the negative side of the coil, and you'll see there's a negative sign. So always talk about the positive and negative side of the coil, and then you'll never get the wiring backwards no matter how the coil is oriented. This is white with yellow going into the positive plus sign side of the coil, and then this is white with gray or white with slate, whatever terminology you want to use, and it runs from the negative sign of the coil back to the bulkhead connector, and it goes back inside the relay compartment. And then the white with gray wire runs from the back side of the bulkhead connectors down the wiring harness to this junction. That's the white with gray or white with slate junction. From here, the circuit splits and goes in 3 different directions. One wire goes over to the ECU compartment for the ignition module. One wire goes to the RPM relay, the reset signal on the RPM relay. I, of course, don't use it. And then the third wire runs up to the dashboard for the tachometer. So that is the coil circuit. From the white junction through the bulkhead connectors out to the resistor grid, from the resistor grid to the positive side of the coil, from the negative side of the coil back through the bulkhead connectors down to the white with gray junction, and then over to the ignition module.